I get dropped, but right back in. I'm gonna fight this shit, I'm gonna take this risk and let my pride get dropped, but right back in. Cause there's no question, I've been through worse, I can handle this.
The following video contains treasonous YouTube activities such as having your own opinion, thinking for yourself, being your own person, expressing your own ideas. If you are a person who's offended by this, you may not want to watch this video. You have been warned.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Davedaripped1 coming back at you with another head-to-head match. And today we're going up against a fellow YouTuber by the name of Skyangel1984. A guy I met on a Fight Night live stream, and you know, our first interaction via comments on one of the videos I posted was not necessarily a good one, but it turned out to be just a misunderstanding. We're all good now, and we had a pretty good fight, so I figured, you know, I would choose this video to be in the background of today's video. Now, as you could probably tell by the warning that played before this video, this is not going to be your atypical gameplay commentary all about the gameplay. This is actually going to be a video response to a video that Fight Night's Finest did, one of the brightest minds and best up-and-coming commentators out in YouTube today. In my opinion, no dick riding, no homo, as everyone says. I can't stand that shit, but it is what it is. You know, he's a guy that inspires me for the younger generation. He gives me hope for them, because despite, you know, the way society has been brainwashed to think and act and, you know, just not be themselves, to be what the machine wants them to be, whether it's the education system, whether it's, you know, the people around them, whether it's their parents, whether it's, you know, the idiot box, the shit in the mainstream media, you know, music, the whole, you know, celebrity shit. It's refreshing to see someone that young who already is deeper and thinks for themselves more than I see most adults nowadays. You know, the stuff that he talks about and the way that he explains things and the way he feels about certain things is it's just refreshing to see someone who has their own ideas, who's not afraid to say it, who is not afraid of not agreeing with someone, and just does things his own way. And you know, whatever that dude chooses to do, he is going to be an inspiring leader one day in whatever it is, you know, whatever field he chooses to do. And you know, it just gives me hope for the next generation, man. It gives me hope for my kids, and it's fun to watch. You know, it's a privilege for me to call him a friend, and it's a privilege for me to get to watch the content that he brings us and for him to be able to share that with us. So now, before I get into what I want to talk about today and responding to that video, if you have not watched that video, make sure you pause this video. The link will be in the description. Go and watch that video so you know exactly what I'm talking about, and then come back and watch this video. But before we get into that, you know, real quickly, I just want to say that today is the day after the 13th anniversary of 9/11, one of the most tragic days in recent American history. A day where 3,000 people, over 3,000 people lost their lives. And you know, despite whatever your feelings may be on what exactly happened, God knows I have my own. If you know me outside of YouTube, or if you've talked to me just about government and politics in general, you can probably guess where I stand on that issue. But out of respect for people who have lost someone, I'm simply going to say that I would like to wish everyone, you know, my heartfelt condolences and remembrance and my thoughts and my prayers. And I sincerely hope that every single person who has lost someone that day has found a way, whether it be through family support, friend support, religion, you know, whatever it is that you choose to take comfort in. I sincerely hope that you have found a way to live your life and be happy. And we get a knockdown there, but it's not, you know, I don't even care at this point. And I also hope that you have found a way to, for your sake, to forgive, you know, whoever was behind this vile and hideous and evil work of Satan. Is the only way I can explain the evil that took place that day. I hope that you could find it in your heart to forgive them for your peace of mind. For your peace of mind. So you not only have to go through life without that person that you lost, but you don't have to go through life with that hatred in your heart that would be so easily developed for anybody. I mean, the nicest people in the world could, turn out to be a hateful person, happen to go through something like that. So that's all I want to say, man. If you want to hear me elaborate on my thoughts in a future video on this, leave a comment below. I might do it, I might not. Government and religion and politics and basically anything. Getting into the warning part of this video beforehand and what I want to talk about today. Basically in life and YouTube, it does not pay to have an opinion on anything. It doesn't pay to think for yourself. It doesn't pay to be your own person. It doesn't pay to act like anything outside of what general society is, man. If you're not it's just a mindless zombie. Maybe that's why I like zombie games so much, because it's what I see when I look around at just society in general, man. I see a populace that has been conformed and has brainwashed, whether it be through the education system, like I said with Fight Night's Finest, whether it be all these other media outlets. They train you to think the way they want you to think, to act the way they want you to think, to act, to idolize the people they want you to idolize. And anyone who is outside of that fold, anyone who dares to think for themselves, anyone who dares to have their own ideas and to question things and to be their own person, they get bullied. They get dismissed, they get discouraged, they get talked about, they get called crazy. And quoting the great Dave Chappelle, a great comedian, when he was talking on an interview about the corruptness in Hollywood, the worst thing that you can do to someone to crush their spirits is be dismissive to them, to call them crazy. It's dismissive, it's discouraging, it makes them feel stupid for being their own person, and it's fucking bullshit. I cannot stand it. People have their own ideas on certain things, and that's fine, but to completely dismiss someone for having a different idea than you, not only dismiss them but talk shit to them to make them feel like they're less of a person because they don't agree with a specific aspect of what you're saying, or what the general fucking population, or what people are made to believe. The way they are treated is just ridiculous. The intolerance and the ignorance portrayed by most of society. I see it every day, man, everywhere I look. And every time I've posted a video like this where I have an opinion, the Ray Rice video, simply for explaining my thoughts on how I don't think it's appropriate to put your hands on women, I was called lifeless by some fucking douchebag. Maybe he's a woman beater, man. Maybe he spends his time beating the fuck out of his wife, even though he's got a pretty little anniversary video on his fucking channel. I don't know what it was about, but it was just mindless, you know what I mean? He doesn't say why I was lifeless, or why, I don't know, you know what I mean? It is whatever. But anytime, not just on YouTube, when I try to talk to friends about the way I feel about certain government and politics and religion, people just don't want to hear it, man. They don't. They are perfectly happy in their bubble. They are perfectly happy being brainwashed. They are perfectly happy. They don't want their day ruined by something that is truth. That's something that is real. That's something that might not fit their everyday conversations that they want to have. You know what I mean? They are perfectly happy being brainwashed by the TV. They're perfectly happy worrying about what fucking Honey Boo Boo's doing. Worrying about the game that's on. Worrying about, like my job. I go there every day, man, and I see people that are just satisfied with the rut that they have created for themselves, and it makes me sick. These people could grow up to be whatever they want to do, be whatever they want to be, and they settle because the government has made it so easy for them to do so. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to talk shit about people on welfare, people that need welfare, but there are people who take advantage of it, who don't need it, simply so they don't have to go out and be a productive member of society and make something of themselves. I've seen families that have generation after generation after generation have just been in the system and have no ambition whatsoever, no original thoughts of their own. They're just existing, and they get paid to do so. They get food stamps, they get cash allowance, they get their bills paid, they get paid to exist. Paid to simply exist. Don't worry about getting a job. Don't worry about thinking for yourself. Don't worry about being a productive member of society. Don't worry about potentially being a scientist who cures a disease, or an astronaut, or whatever you want to be. Just be. Just exist. You don't have to do anything else. We got you. We will take care of you. All you have to do is do what you're doing right now, which is nothing, and we will take care of you. Don't worry about us. Don't worry about what we're doing. Don't worry about the fact that we're overseas killing millions of innocent civilians in the name of oil, in the name of regime change, whatever that word. I can't pronounce that word right for some reason today. Don't worry about any of the evil, heinous acts that we are producing. Don't worry about the fact that we are slowly taking your freedoms away. And you'll care once they're completely gone. But for the meantime, just stay in your rut. You know what I mean? 9 out of 10 people, they're the biggest worry that day that they have in their lives is where they're going to find their weed, where they're going to find their coke, where they're going to find their pills, where they're going to find their heroin, where they're going to get their ride to go and get their food stamps so they can sell those for drugs. You know what I mean? They're not worried about the future of the country. They're not worried about what's going on in real life, the shit that actually matters. They're not worried about the fact that we are destroying our planet. They are not worried about anything, about nothing, because they don't have to. And anytime you try to talk to these people and try to, get your point across, that you don't have to settle for this. You don't have to settle for this. They don't want to hear it because they are perfectly happy and they have been perfectly conditioned to be zombies. And that is, it's disgusting, man. It's a crime to rob these people of their life. You know what I mean? They're going to look back when they're 60 and when they're 70 and they've done nothing with their lives, and they're going to be so pissed off and so sad. And it's sad for me to see that. But let's go ahead and get into the teacher that we saw in that video, which is why you need to watch that video before you come back and watch this. It was a teacher basically who had a kid going off on her for not doing her job. You know what I mean? She had came out in before apparently and said that this is how she gets paid, this is just her job, and it just really seemed like she hadn't taught anything. You know what I mean? She basically gave them some papers and said, here, teach yourself. And there are a lot of teachers that way, and you need to blame the teachers, but you also need to understand that not every teacher that is like that started out that way. You know what I mean? Teachers have it rough, man. They don't get paid enough. They have to deal with parents who don't give a fuck about their kids. They have to deal with parents that the teacher gives more fuck about the kids than they do. They have, every day they're seeing kids that come to school that are malnutrition. How are they supposed to come to school and learn if they're not eating right? They're dealing with kids that are getting abused, dealing with kids that are getting bullied. They're dealing with a government that doesn't pay them enough to live their life and have the supplies and things needed to teach these kids the way that they were supposed to be taught. You know what I mean? I had a couple teachers in my life. I've seen both sides of the spectrum. I've seen the worst teachers and I've seen the best teachers. And these teachers that were the best, they touched my life and they helped me so much. It's insane. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I didn't really necessarily have the best childhood. My real dad I've never met. He's in prison. I had an adopted father and I have a stepfather. I had a broken home when I was 10 or 11, and I was sent to live with a stepdad who I constantly butted head with. And on both sides of that, I was basically, I don't want to say abused, but I butted head with both of those. I've been called stupid. I was called pussy. You know what I mean? I was, it was just rough. And throughout that time, I went from being a student to A/B honor roll constantly, in spite of everything that I was going through, to, I was fucking up in school, because I just had enough. The older that I got, the more I felt like, I was the man of the house, because, at 15 years old, I was out working to help pay rent. And you know what I mean? And it created, just that headbutt, and it just created a lot of issues for me, to where I was socially awkward. You know what I mean? I ended up getting bullied in the early years of middle school before I finally learned to stand up for myself. But these teachers, they pulled me aside, and they told me that I was better than that. I didn't have to settle for my circumstances. I didn't have to settle for what my parents were. I didn't have to settle for the way things were. You know what I mean? I could get out of that. I could be anything I wanted to be, and that all I had to do was believe in myself, and that they believed in me. And sometimes that is all a kid needs, man. That is all. They just need that one person that can look at them and see the potential in them. And those are the teachers that that we need. Those are the teachers that aren't just there for a paycheck. They're there to teach these kids. They actually teach these kids. They get up and they make class fun, and they make it entertaining, and they make kids want to learn. And you know, some of those teachers don't start out being just wanting a paycheck. You know what I mean? Some of them do. Some of them see it as easy, especially the teachers nowadays who, you know that all they have to do is regurgitate the garbage that they have been taught to teach by the government, you know, to produce these zombies. All they have to do is regurgitate that. Here, take this pamphlet. I'm gonna play fucking Candy Crush on my iPhone. Don't worry about me. You do you. And it's a fucking shame. And you know, it just sucks seeing that, man, because there are some teachers who go in there. I don't think any teacher in the past anyway went into a teaching profession simply for the money, especially knowing how much they get paid, especially knowing all the stuff that they have to deal with these parents that don't give a fuck, with the government who doesn't pay them enough. I had a teacher one day that this kid came to school and he was abused. He had busted ass clothes every day. He was getting made fun of. He didn't have enough to eat, and this teacher went and bought this kid out of her own pocket. She went and bought him school clothes. She went and bought him school supplies. She went and made sure his lunch was paid for. So I mean, you know, those are the teachers that I feel bad for, that have to deal with that stuff, and eventually they get to that point where they fight and they fight and they fight and they fight and they give their lives to these kids, and eventually they just can't do it anymore. They just can't do it anymore. They get discouraged by seeing these parents and seeing the government officials who just don't care. They don't give a fuck. They care about money, and that is it. Like, there are some evil motherfuckers in the top 1% of the world these days, man. They don't give a fuck. They are willing to put, you know, innocent civilians at risk. They are really willing to put mine and your children out on the front lines without a care in the world, simply for oil or whatever the case may be, whatever agenda they're trying to spew, without ever having to be in their shoes. You know what I mean? There's not presidents back in the day like George Washington who was on the battlefield with his fucking troops. You know what I mean? The captain that goes down with the ship. You know what I mean? That's what I should see. If you're gonna go and authorize a war, your fucking kids need to be in there. You need to be in there, motherfucker. Get your ass out there and fucking fight. But just the intolerance, you know, and people being unwilling to think outside the box and listen to reason even when it's in their face. And if you don't have to listen to me, you don't have to listen to anybody else, but simply think for yourself. You know what I mean? If you hear something and you have questions about it, go and research, do your own research, think for yourself. Don't just be another fucking zombie. We're not going to survive like that. We need people who think for themselves, who question, and people who want to make a difference in this world. And that's what's sad to see. And, you know, I praise the teachers that actually give a fuck, and I condemn the people that don't. This has been your boy Davedaripped1. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the fight. I'm out, guys. Peace. Good fight, Skyangel.